Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I get to interview very special guests talking about all things resilience. And today I'm with the lovely Phil Hadfield. Lovely. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
That's all right. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, you've got a wonderful podcast that I was very lucky to be on only a few weeks ago, actually, called the Chronic Comeback Podcast.
Correct. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, I set that up earlier on this year through dealing. Do you want me to? Did you want me to talk
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, yeah. Do.
Okay,
Tell
cool.
me, tell me.
I didn't want to just suddenly talk for 5 minutes and then you were
No,
like,
no,
"What?"
no, this is great. Go, go, go.
So yeah, I've through dealing with my own chronic health issues, like the last 5 to 10 years, and obviously the physical stuff that comes with that, but the more the mental side of it. And I don't think people really ever focus on that. They're just focused on, I've got all these symptoms. Why don't I
Yeah,
feel like I used to feel before? And then it's really the mental mind, the mindset of it all that really is tough and really difficult. And as you well know, you probably looked into on your end, the depression rates amongst people who are going through chronic health is ridiculous. So um,
yeah.
I through the last like 5 years, I've started to surround myself with stories, positive stories of people recovering or people doing amazing things with their lives, and surrounding myself with those kinds of people. And it's just done so much for my mindset and for my just my well-being on a daily basis. And whilst I'm not recovered, my life is just a lot better now. I have that belief that I'm going to do something amazing with my life, and I'm already headed in that direction. And so
Yeah.
early on this year, I was just like, I would just love for other people. If you go on Facebook, you go on these chat rooms about chronic health, it's
Yeah.
all doom and gloom. It's all
It can
negativity.
be. It totally can.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to, each week I'm interviewing people that have come back from chronic health issues like yourself,
Yeah.
and have gone on and done amazing things, and yeah, kind of giving back. And yeah, that's it. I don't want to dominate the show talking about it.
No, this is so great. You're so inspiring, Phil. I think you're amazing. Like I was so proud to be on your show. And how old are you?
34.
34. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And what part of England? London?
London,
You're in
yeah. If
London.
any, yeah, anyone listening who's from the UK, though, I was originally from Birmingham, so I haven't got a London accent. I've got a bit of a strange accent.
Love it, love it. So let's dive in. Tell me, what does resilience mean to you?
It's a good question. Resilience for me is the ability to bounce back, but I guess the ability at the at your darkest times to see reason in those times, and to be able to come through them and look back on them and actually be grateful for them. And it's only now, being the age I'm at, looking back on things in my childhood that I was like, that was really tough for me. Even just like the smallest things, like I did a whole season sitting on a bench, just trying to get my chance in soccer, in football. And, finally got that chance and just took it. But it took me a whole season. And my mum used to say, just quit. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep going back every week. And there was tears and there's everything. And you
Yeah.
look back on that and, the knockback from job interviews. But then if you'd got that job, your life would have gone a completely different way.
True.
And so for me, resilience is really being able to kind of come, make that bounce back, that comeback, but also see reason in it, and be grateful for having that kind of dark time that actually made you a better person, if that makes
I
sense.
love it. So finding the lesson, and there always is an equal amazing lesson and positive aspect of a negative, well, not negative, but a difficult time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's so true. So let's talk about what happened to you. Like, what was your story? What is your story?
Yeah, so I guess when you talk about resilience, this is what I'm going through at the moment. It's a constant test of resilience. I think I was actually quite lucky up until the age of 22. I'd had a pretty normal life. good family, the normal troubles, but nothing too significant. Just finished university, went traveling with some friends, loving life, doing things you probably shouldn't do, but you're going to do at 22. And I was actually in Australia, and I got this tick bite when I was there. And just from that point onwards, I just started to develop every kind of symptom under the sun. And that's, from aching joint pain, neurological symptoms, loads of different symptoms. And that came on over a year. And it wasn't so bad. It was kind of just like, what is going on? I've never had to deal with this before. I would go and see neurologists. I'd go and see doctors. And they would just say, you're fine. You look at you, you're fine. Don't worry about it. And then I kind of got back to normal. But then 5 years later, after a kind of period of every now and then getting some symptoms, I had almost like another relapse at one point. And since then, it's just got worse and worse. And again, all of those symptoms that I described, all of those and more, just, ringing in the ears, issues with my vision, all of this kind of stuff. And the part I want to talk about resilience in this is a lot of those times at the beginning, you start doing stuff like, you go on these internet chat rooms and stuff, and you start picturing yourself in a wheelchair. You start, you type in Google pins and needles, muscle weakness, issues with eyes, and you see all of these terrible, irreversible things.
Yeah, like motor neuron, MS, and like I can think of so many
exactly.
things,
and then you suddenly start seeing it everywhere. You'll be on TV and there'll be an advert, and you'll just be like, it's something like that will pop up, and because you're focusing on it, it's everywhere.
Right. That's right.
And that's what I was going through, and I felt so lonely because I was 28 at the time, and I was, probably going out more than before. Like, me and my friends are quite sociable people, let's say, and going out, doing a lot of partying, and I was just like, it was this contradictory lifestyle, because I felt so bad, but I was still pushing myself really hard at work, pushing myself really hard going out, and also pushing myself really hard for an exercise point of view. But every time I would go to a doctor, they would say, you're fine. And not only that, they would make me feel like I was crazy. I was crazy. It was I know anyone listening to this who's been in this situation will have been through the same kind of thing. And so I did test after test on our health system, the NHS, and always just came back negative. I was fit as a fiddle, and the problem is, you look fine. There's nothing wrong with you physically. Whereas when it's an acute injury, you've broken a nose, there's something like that, or even if you have something like, something really serious like cancer or something like that, you look ill. So because you don't look ill, people just, if you tell someone you're feeling terrible, they're just like, you're fine. So it got to the point, where I'd done loads and loads of tests, and it got to the point where I was just like, this is unbelievable. I got sent to an health anxiety person, which basically should be renamed as a hypochondriac doctor, because that's what you're going there for, really. Because he was just saying, it's all in your head. I must have seen him about 5 times, and he put me on antidepressants, and it just didn't get any better. And it was Christmas 2015, and I was there with my mum, and I told her, look, I've stopped taking these antidepressants, it's ridiculous. And she said, Phil, you're not like you might have anxiety, but you're not an overly anxious person. No, I'm not. You're not depressed. This isn't what causing your issues. If you go back to kind of how this all started, it was that bite in Australia. Look into that. So then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm actually done with like accepting other people's opinions, doctors' opinions, when it's not making me better. I'm taking control over this. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to find the solution. Little did I know, I mean, I thought I'd find the solution within about 3 months, but obviously that didn't happen. But I then started going and getting, it costs a lot of money, but I started getting private testing, and I was going over to Germany because they're a lot better than the UK in looking at all of this. And finally, I had confirmation that I had something. They had all my blood results back, and it showed that I had a incredibly weak immune system. Something was attacking my immune system, and I ended up getting like a clinical diagnosis of Lyme because of the bite and because of the blood work, although there wasn't a positive test for Lyme. So I then just went on a period of time which definitely needed more resilience of I went and did a month where I had hooked up to IVs, getting antibiotics, antivirals. That didn't work. I then did a 3-week detox thing in India that didn't make any improvement. I did every diet under the sun, vegan, vegetarian, just everything, cutting out gluten, cutting out dairy at different times, all of these things, every supplement. I mean, I've got a whole pharmacy of supplements downstairs. And then it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I need to leave my job so I can focus on this. I'd found this other, stop me, by the way, if this story's going on too long.
This is perfect. Keep going.
Good. So it got to the point where I was like, I need to leave work. Like I didn't enjoy my job anyway at that time. I probably should have left a couple of years before, but as you do, you kind of, out of fear, you stay in a job. That's another conversation. But it got to the point I was like, right, okay, I need to get something that will get me better. I found this stem cell treatment that you can do for people with Lyme disease. This lovely doctor in Germany who I'm still dealing with now. And I left my job, went over to Germany. I actually also went over to Florida because I found a kinesiologist, which I haven't told you about actually.
No.
That I did 3 weeks of treatment. Sorry, 3 weeks, a week of treatment with her.
Great.
She put me on loads of supplements. Then I went to Germany, did the stem cell treatment. Then I'd found another stem cell guy in America. I'm kind of an all or nothing person, so I try to do everything at once, hoping that it will work. Yeah. And I did some stem cell stuff with him on my joints. So the guy in Germany had done it on my blood. It was on my joints. So I was like, right, I'm set. This is it. I've spent a lot of money, and it was in excess of like £20,000, maybe even £30,000. And I was like, this is it now. I went traveling, and I'll get better. And it just didn't happen. Didn't improve. I didn't see a single bit of improvement. So I carried on traveling, and enjoyed traveling. But again, in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I've left work, but now I'm spending loads of money without an income, and I'm not getting better. So I've got that stress now, which I didn't have that before.
Yeah.
So I got to the point, this was like beginning of 2019, I decided that I was going to stop traveling. I've been traveling for a year. I was going to come back. I was going to start my own business with my friend. We were like, we don't want to go back to our old jobs, but I'm now kind of like working remotely, running my own kind of recruitment consultancy on the side of trying to start my own business. So it's good because I get to run my own hours.
Great.
But then that year, so I found this clinic that did this 3-week water fast, where you go and you only just have water for a week, for 3 weeks. And it's meant, and it's to place in California, and it does a lot of good for a lot of people. But I think for someone in my situation, I got tested straight after it, and it showed my immune system just hadn't responded at all. So again, that didn't work. All of my friends are seeing me come back from each of these things, and they're just like, the dreaded question I hear is, so are you feeling any better? And I'm just like, no. And I just dread it, the question. And each time you've got to kind of like pick yourself up and just I've had a lot of doctors say, look, I think you should just accept that this is something you're going to have to live with and just manage it. And each time they say that, I'm like, you don't know how I feel. Like, I'm not going to accept that. So at the beginning of this year, I called my German doctor again. I said, look, I need to go again. We need to do some more tests or something. And we got myself tested for mold toxicity, amongst a number of other things. And for those who don't know, 20% of the population actually have like a genetic susceptibility to mold toxicity. So I live with my girlfriend, and we've got mold in our flat, which we've just realized, but she's just sitting there, breathing it in, but she's developing antibodies which essentially zap the mycotoxins which are come about from the mold. Whereas someone like me, it just builds up and builds up over years and years. And I grew up in a place that was old and probably quite moldy, and eventually starts to create all of these health problems. And I got this test result back that showed I had these high levels of toxic mold, and I was like, wow, this potentially is it. And I was only just speaking to you before this call. I had a call yesterday with this specialist in the US that's kind of said to me that he can see, he's given me this plan, and he's like, I've had so many people in your position, and it's fully, I'm so confident that you can fully recover from this. And this is almost 11 years from when it first started. So I'm still in it.
Yeah, you're still on the journey. Yeah. And
exactly.
I really wish you all the best with that. I really hope that uncovers what you're looking for, and it does start to get to the bottom of what's creating these symptoms for you. And I think a lot of people are going to feel inspired just hearing that, even the fact that you haven't solved it yet, there's a lot of people that are going to be in your shoes. And today's all about discussing how you're handling being in the middle of all of that. So it's really inspiring. So how has it felt, when you've been at your lowest? Like, what does it feel like feeling that defeated and unsure and unwell?
I think I'm someone who likes being able to control like outcomes of things, like in business and in my life, really. In exercise, I have a goal, and I control that. I'm like, if I do X, it will deliver Y. And that's always been the case, with exercise. As an example, if I want to get in that condition, I have to not eat those horrible things, not drink those horrible things, and I have to work out, blah, 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 blah. The difficulty with this is that there's so many gut punches where you go to a doctor, they say, I didn't mention all of the other people I've seen. It's crazy. And they'll say, you need to do this 5 times a day for 6 months, and you won't see a response for 6 months, but 6 months should be fine. So I'll do it for 6 months, and it doesn't do anything. So for me, it's that lack of control over me getting better. I can have all of the enthusiasm and everything in the world. It's just that lack of control that
must be really hard, because like what I believe is what you believe is what matters. And if you've got a goal, you want to align it with what you're believing. So align it. And then when you're going through the journey and you're in the middle of it and nothing's worked, what typically happens is our goals don't align with what we believe can be possible. And then that creates a massive resistance, and that creates more fear, more stress, and then that's how the immune system in itself starts to respond from that fight or flight reaction of, I haven't found the answer yet. So it's almost like you got to be proactive, but then also sort of like surrender into the belief of, but the answer's coming. I am going to solve this. I believe I can be well. How do you do that? It's so hard.
I find it really difficult. And I'm still finding it difficult now, even though he's telling me that I can fully recover. I know there's a big part of me that's like, it's almost like, I've been in a relationship that, I've been the person who's been wronged consistently.
I won't do it again.
Exactly. And I don't want to get it's almost like there's a part of me that doesn't want to get my hopes up too much because I've just been burnt so many times before. But that being said, I just have to believe. I have to be positive, and yeah.
So what was your turning point, do you think? What keeps you going every day to keep searching for answers and to be positive through this massive journey you're on?
So I can't, I talked about earlier with when my mum said, stop. That was the turning point, as in I stopped taking doctors' opinions at face value and believing them, because that's, up until that point, my parents are just like, we have a local doctor and he's like God. That's definitely not the case anymore. I have got a lot of respect for them now. I realize it's more about education than anything. But I think for me, there wasn't really a turning point. It's a continuation of turning points. I've probably still got some more to go. Probably a lot to go. But it's more, I think it's a development of my mindset. And that started the minute I started looking at meditation and just the other side of things. I'd been a very one-dimensional, I was a nice guy, but a one-dimensional character, I guess, before. In a way, I wouldn't, if someone had told me about the universe or things are meant to be, or I was a very, what I perceived to be a rational person. I didn't think that way. Whereas now I've started to get, it's almost like you start to feel a little bit like a child again when you start thinking about these kind of things, like the things working for a reason, things working into cycles. Once you're in that down phase, you're going to come back up, because that's just the way things work. I never thought about things like that before. And I'm veering off topic a little bit, but
no, not at all. Not at all. Keep going.
I think there's just a continuation of a lot of it for me is reading and listening to podcasts and speaking to people like yourself who've just gone and done amazing things. And since I've actually decided to launch my own business, I've really gone deep into kind of like personal development and listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks. And it's almost like getting therapy. I actually think it's better than therapy. I could be in the worst place mentally, and I'll read 10 pages of a book or listen to one podcast, and it will just change my day. I think it's a continual effort to improve myself. And only in the last couple of years have I started to be a lot more grateful for the things that are going on now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, this is so cool. It sounds like your thing is control, wanting to control. And maybe when you were younger, you felt out of control. So therefore, that's why you wanted to control. And that can be a thing that evokes fear and inner resistance. But at the same time, your illness and your symptoms of whatever's going on has allowed you to learn how to take more control in a positive way. And maybe your journey is about learning to believe more while controlling. And maybe it's just about taking control of the overwhelming fears when we feel out of control. And that's how you'll change your mind. I'm bambooing you right now. So you'll change your mind. I can't help it. So you've got a goal.
I can feel it.
Start to believe I want to feel in control. And then the old you is like, I don't feel in control. So I've got to force it to happen. Whereas everything you're going through right now is teaching you, that you are in control. And then when you start believing that, you can let go of the pressure and the intensity of believing that you're out of control. And then when you start to see more and more, no, I am in control, and you can open your heart and start to believe that good things can happen again and you will find your answers. To me, my instinct tells me that it's going to be about pulling back and not trying too hard and letting go of the inner resistance of feeling like you still need to find control when it may just be right in front of you, but because you're forcing it. And that can happen when you're on a really long journey of finding health. I know my twin sister, she was in pain with Crohn's disease for so many years that she actually stopped breathing and she flatlined and died, but came back thankfully, and she's good now. But when you're on a long, long journey of being in pain or having symptoms that are really debilitating, you feel completely out of control. And it's easier said than done to go, well, I'm just going to learn how to feel in control and let go of that inner resistance. Like, it's not easy, but it is actually about hitting rock bottom and then having no choice but to find that inner letting go of the resistance, where you just have to. And then you really discover new aspects of yourself where you didn't realize that you could believe more and let go of control. You know, you just learn so many new aspects of yourself that helps you to become a whole new version of yourself. And then your thinking changes and your vocabulary changes and your inner dialogue. And that's what changes the biochemistry that's going to heal your immune system. Like, I think that your story is so fascinating, and my story is very much about feeling in control or out of control too, because it's about the brain. And it sounds like your stuff is going to be about the brain too, whatever they find, whether it's Lyme or this mold thing, it's definitely affected the brain by the sounds of it with your symptoms.
I think so. I mean, also there's definitely genetics in there, which meant that I've had this kind of mold build up over a long time. There's a number of other things that are going on that I've had positive tests for as well, like EBV and a number of other things that are also not helping, but it's also kind of brought on by the mold situation. But I think it's and by the way, this is brilliant. I didn't realize I was getting a session first thing in the morning.
I'm so tempted at the end to get to hold points with you. We might do that later, but not now.
Well, I didn't realize. But I think what you said there is so true. And for me, what I was hearing there was kind of like a balance between kind of having that control, and that's what I'm continually going through. But what this has brought about is a lot of self-awareness. Obviously, it's self-awareness is kind of a bit of a battle, like to making sure that you're constantly looking introspectively and kind of assessing, how you're reacting to certain things. But because I'm such an all or nothing kind of person, it can be really helpful sometimes. Like this guy yesterday just gave me this whole list of things that I need to do, and so I'll go at it. But then also, as you said, I need to have a little bit of kind of holding back and
just
having
believing,
less. Exactly.
Less. It's I can see that's your journey of learning how to believe that it's going to be okay. And so our setbacks that are placed in front of us, whether it's changing jobs and ending or the start of a relationship or illness, I really believe that these things are placed in front of us for us to go through them. That builds the resilience for us to learn whatever it is that we need to unlearn or unpack from younger stuff that we've started to believe that we need to change our minds about. And it was only when I absolutely just could not walk did I go, well, suppose I better learn how to let go of control then, because I couldn't wash, walk, or feed myself. I couldn't, I was like, oh, well, I can't. And then I had to let go of control in letting my mom and my sister and friends dress me and feed me. And it was beautiful moments as well. But it was hard for me to receive that. It was. But then I had to go through that to soften, because I hardened up so much, I think, when I was younger from believing I was so out of control. Right here, I'm going to show you. One of my Post-it notes on my computer is let go of control. I am in full control of my life. So I've got this up. Nice. I'm constantly training myself about I am in control. And it's funny that I'll go years and years with no symptoms, but then sometimes one thing will throw me and make me believe I'm out of control again. Guess what? Can't feel the whole left side. It's amazing. And it's always about control for me. And so, getting to the bottom of what that inner resistance is for you when you're going through an illness, and then your body parts and your organs are connected to these different emotions. The brain is very much about control. Whereas the kidneys are about fear and also willpower. And the gallbladder is very much about moving forward and being able to execute your plans, whereas the liver is about being able to create plans and seeing your vision. And there's all these different parts of the body that kinesiologists obviously look into. That's Henry, by the way, my little dog, darling. And so this is great, Phil, because it's just helped giving an example of what it's like when you're in the middle of it, and people will relate to a lot of the things you're going through, and that's going to help them to believe that they can feel connected and that they can overcome it.
I think, and that's why I love what you're doing with the podcast. It's you can apply what I'm going through right now. You can apply it to anything
Yes.
that you're going through that's difficult, and that's why I'm grateful for a lot of the the stuff I've had to go through, because it just set me up for other things in life. But it was interesting what you said then about the left side thing. You were saying that every now and then it's almost like that'll come up, and you actually could freak out at that point, but you're like, oh no, that's like you've got an awareness now that that's actually like a different thing, and it actually, in a way, it's almost a comforting thing in a warped way, because you're like, okay, that's telling me to slow down. Whereas another person having that exact same thing could completely freak out and think their life's over. So
because I believe I've gotten to the bottom of what it is, and then because I studied kinesiology, and then I learned all the body parts, and then when I would clear out that stuff and those specific emotions that cause me stress, then my feeling would come back, and I would go, oh, that's interesting. And I've been doing that for 10 years now, like for so long. So I know sometimes I don't know what it is, but often I know, oh, okay. And I've learned to listen. I've got sore ears at the moment. So I was like, oh, what's that about? And ears are about your inner intuition on the left side, or maybe the right is more about you don't want to hear something that's going on around you. So that, it's just the body is constantly communicating to us. And sometimes we don't need to like band-aid it. It's like, oh, well, sometimes the inner like pulling back is about allowing your body to feel these symptoms and talking to them. Like you could go, okay, cool. What's going on? What are you trying to tell me? What is this about? And I would meditate on that. I would journal about it, and let go of needing it to be different just for a bit. For it doesn't mean you're not being proactive. It doesn't mean you don't want it to go away. It doesn't mean you don't want it, but just letting go of, get out of your own way kind of thing, and just let it be. And sometimes the answers come. And I really believe when you get to the bottom of the emotional link to what's going on with you physically, you cure it for good. So what have you learned? What's the biggest thing you've learned?
It's a good question.
Just one thing that stands out that you've learned.
One thing. Wow, that is a good question. I think I don't know one thing that I've learned. I think it's just more the path that this has kind of sent me on, looking at a side of my life that I never would have done before. So I guess actually, I think the thing that it's taught me is that actually life isn't so serious. And I know that sounds ridiculous because I'm going through something that's quite serious, but that actually there's this amazing part of life that is actually taking control over things, as long as you kind of are playing by the rules, if that makes sense. You're not being a total idiot. And that's such like a magical thing to believe in, that there's a universal kind of force that is taking care of you as long as you're kind of working with it and not against it. And the first time I started hearing that, I was like, that is a load of crap. Sorry. I just thought that's a load of rubbish. I was sitting there in this meditation thing, and the guy was talking about it, and I was just like, that is just such a load of rubbish. But then when you start doing more and more reading on the subject, and you start hearing these aren't just people that are, yogis with, long hair and just these, just wearing a pair of trousers in Bali. These are like the CEOs. There's like all these kind of people, sports stars, all talking about the same thing. And
that force, that like life force that surrounds us.
Exactly. So I think for me, it's actually that I think that life isn't actually as serious as everyone wants it to. Everyone believes it to be, and actually it does have this real childlike magical element to it that I haven't been experiencing in its entirety in these last 10 years, but I have seen a lot of elements to it, and I'm now seeing more and more of it on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah, that's really cool, because that's what, when more you step into not taking life too seriously and you discover the magic that is all around you, then, that inner resistance will drop more and more as well. And maybe you had to go through so much to learn how to turn that on and off. Maybe, you know what it feels like to create, like to have like it almost feels like hell on earth, and
Yeah.
and then there is a way that we can sort of drop it and then step into paradise. I've experienced it myself. You can create heaven or hell on earth. It depends on how you look at things and what you're believing. So
Yeah.
so how do you think your life is better having gone through that?
So in so many ways, so many ways. I think about the sliding doors of me kind of having that, I think although I had this tick bite, the doctors told me it's kind of like a perfect storm. I already had a lot going on, and that was just kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But that was maybe a sliding doors moment for me, that had I not started to develop those symptoms, I know what I'm like. I was, I'm an ambitious person, and in my 20s was more, a lot driven by money, and that was what I wanted to do. So I had a job in the city, and my group of friends have, got really good jobs, and we're all kind of competitive. And I know that I would have gone and just stayed in that kind of like city environment, working, 14, 15 hours a day or whatever it is, and just, trying to buy more property, just live what I believed was going to be a successful life. And I think ironically, had I not got, I don't like to say sick because it gives like a negative connotation, but had I not developed symptoms, I think I would have got ill further down the line through a bad lifestyle.
Yeah.
Although I was very health conscious from a vanity point of view, I do so much exercise. I try to watch what I ate. It was always from a point of view of looking good, not feeling good.
Yeah.
And I feel like from a health point of view, from a business point of view, and probably from a relationship point of view, my life would have been far worse off. And I think finally I'm just a lot more conscious of like my actions and how they affect other people, and trying to do like with the podcast, for example, just trying to actually make an effort to put something out there without expecting anything back.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's quite a lot of things that I've learned, but
No, I love it. And you found more meaning in life, and, it sounds very satisfying, and, you take care of yourself to feel good as well as looking good. I think that's amazing. So do you have some tips to round everything off?
I think tips for someone who's going through a bad time is that I was once told this thing, and I talk about it with like my business partner and my girlfriend. And life is just like full of like mini and huge cycles, and so everything's always going in a cycle. So in a day when you just have that time where you get a call, I had it yesterday. I had a leak in my roof. I had something going on at work, and then had something going on with my business. And then my girlfriend came to me and said something else, and everything just went at once. And then I said to myself, this is just the point and the bottom of the cycle in that day. And it was, everything got better from that point onwards. And I think it's just when you're in those darkest times, and when you're in the worst times, they may last longer than you want, but you are at the, towards the bottom of them, and good things are going to come. You're going to go on that. And I like to say
it will keep moving. Yeah, I love it. That's so true.
Yeah. And I think that's also a good thing to know when you're on the top and you're feeling and everything's amazing.
Yeah.
You've got to be mentally prepared that that's also not going to last forever. And I actually, although I don't want to ruin good days, I do say to myself, like when I'm having an amazing day, I'm like, okay, be grateful for this, because you know that in a couple of days you could have a really bad day. And that tends to coincide with how I feel maybe as well. But I think that's my biggest tip. Just when you're having a bad time or even a good time, recognize that is a cycle, and that it will change. It's impossible not to change. It will 100% change. So that you can't get away from it. It will change.
And just move through it, because it's going to move. I love that. That's awesome.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, I stole it from someone else. So.
I'm sure you've been through it though yourself. And I've
Yeah,
never heard anyone say that. Like it's a cycle. It absolutely is. And there's big cycles and mini cycles. I love it, Phil. This is so cool. I think you're so
cool.
cool.
Thank you very much. You too.
That's all right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'll have all of the notes in the vlog of how you can find Phil. But he's got a Facebook page called The Chronic Comeback, and also Instagram and YouTube. You must check out his amazing podcast and his work. And thanks again, Phil, for coming on the show.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. And apologies if the lighting was pretty bad in here. It's first thing
it's
in the
good.
morning in the UK.
Yeah, I know. It's very early in the morning for you, and it's just moving
It's
into
just dark and
5.
horrible.
No, it's all good. No, this is great. And I really wish you all the best of luck on your journey. I know you're going to find everything that you need.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. See you guys next week. Bye.